CJOB.
Was there anything that the Jets could have done differently or could have done at all, period, to kind of make you a Jet for life? Or was this just kind of something that in reality was inevitable?
Yeah, I think it was. Like I told them, they didn't do anything wrong. I was there for 10 years. I loved it there. I love the organization, the people in it, the guys. They became family, right? And the city of Winnipeg, the fans. Everyone that's played in Winnipeg knows how incredible it is to play there. For me, it was more about trying something new and challenging myself, getting out and, see different things, different culture. And that's what that's what I wanted to do. Obviously, like I said, love playing in Winnipeg. Will never forget my time, but it was time for me personally to get out and experience something different and challenge myself on and off the ice.
That was Nikolaj Ehlers, now, of course, a member of the Carolina Hurricanes. That was the Free Press's Mike McIntyre asking that question. This was an inevitable move for Nick Ehlers as he tries to broaden his horizons, try something new. And, he's 100% earned that right. And happy for Nick. And that's sort of what I expected there, Jim Toth. Jets at Noon brought to you by Wash Method Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road. VIP take on the text line to win a VIP car wash from my good friends at Wash Method, 204-780-6868. We'll announce the winner later in the program as we're coming at you live from the Boston Pizza Studio. For gourmet pizza and pasta, bring the team to Boston Pizza. Jim, your thoughts on Nick Ehlers and his comments there, as well as his exit from the Winnipeg Jets, which you talked about before, but we haven't heard anything from him yet, and we were able to do that over the weekend.
Yeah, well, seeing how we're reheating, good afternoon, everybody, by the way. Hope you had a great weekend. Seeing how we're reheating Free For All Friday, I'll reheat my take of, I just think sometimes change is wanted or needed. I think they both were more than willing to continue the relationship and offer a contract and have Nick Ehlers retire a Jet, but I just got the feeling as the whole year went on, both the Jets and Nick Ehlers would be okay if it was inevitable for change. Mm-hmm. I think Murat Atesh had the info that he has not confirmed from Chevy, but he put this out after the Toews presser and talking to Kevin Cheveldayoff that the Jets went as high as 8.5, which I was wondering if they did.
Yeah.
But it was for 5 years, not 6.
Okay.
And then, I think Friedman has the news that teams are offering 7 elsewhere and things like that. I'm sorry, I haven't changed my mind on this take. If they could have come to a deal, they would have been more than happy with it. But I think the Jets would have liked to keep Nick Ehlers, but the fact that he would like a change, as we just heard, I think they're more than willing to go in a different direction and try to change things up a bit, right? And then, Nick, you heard right there, and I have a lot of time and respect for Nick. I think that he's one of the more straightforward athletes that you'll see and speaks directly to whether it's post-game or not.
He's a good dude,
He's
too.
a good dude, yeah. He's a really good guy and a good man. So, but I just feel like there was never an absolute dire need to make this work. There was never an absolute, we got to do this. The idea that we part ways is asinine and all that. I just never got that feeling throughout the entire year. Even going back to where Nick said at the start of the year, it's not just about money. It's about they have to want me here like everybody else and a part of it. And I think the Jets would like him. The thing with the Jets is if you don't have Nick Ehlers, what do you have? And then whatever you have, and everybody's speculating, right?
Yeah.
It's would you rather have Nick than whatever you might have? I think they would. But to what point, what extent? And 5 years at 30 years old, I don't think that's hey, here's 7 years, $8.5 million. We need to make this happen. I'm sorry, I don't feel that way.
Yeah.
And then Nick Ehlers, vice versa. Like, I'll take 6 years. That's what shocks me for 8.5 because I want to be in Carolina. I want to change. And I'm going to delve into this on my show, Cam, but it's fascinating to me when I heard him on the weekend. I've been thinking about this all weekend and all morning. I know several people in my personal life I grew up with and stuff who have found success, who have owned businesses, who have done whatever job and climbed the ladder or bought their own company or have their own facility. I got a great buddy of mine that I grew up with playing soccer, and we went to different high schools and we always were friends. Then we went to college, and we used to sit around after college at a hotel lounge because there was no sports bars in Lethbridge. And we would talk about how desperately this town needs a sports bar. So he started one called Average Joe's. And for about 12, 13 years, it was the spot in Lethbridge. It got the post-work crowd in for a couple drinks after work. There was never a place like that in my mind in Lethbridge. It got the sports teams, the hockey teams, the ball teams to come in after the senior hockey teams. And then it got like the bar crowd that would come in and stay all night, like us as buddies in our early 30s. And the bar crowd that would just come in and be there all night. And it was so successful, and he was killing it. And after 12 years, he's like, it's the same thing. And the hours, I could keep doing this, but I'm selling it. You know what he does now? He's a prison guard. And it's 4 days a week, and he loves it. And he's got more time with the kids and the wives. And I'm like, dude, you cannot be making that much money that you were when you were running. And he's like, I don't, but I needed a new challenge. Nick needed something different, and I'm going to talk about this in my own show. I get that. I know successful people who have started their own businesses, who have climbed the corporate ladder and got to a spot and go, I could do this for the next 20 years and do very well and be very comfortable, or I could challenge myself. Yeah. And I think that's what Nick's doing here. He wants a change.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he said. I mean, I don't think Nick was not being honest, and there's going to be people that are going to try and spin this way or that way, or he was upset with his ice time, or he wasn't on the top line, or it took to the last year to get to the power play. That one he might have a gripe on, that it took until the last year for him to be on the first unit power play. But I think Nick is just an honest guy, and I just think that's why I wanted to play that audio to kick off the show, because I don't think it's anything beyond that.
I've been saying for years, you and I have both been saying for years, if you ever want to know what Nick Ehlers is thinking or feeling, just ask him. I've never known a time where he hasn't directly addressed whatever it is, so I take him at his word.
This texter says, very curious to know, did Ehlers let the team know ahead of time before the season ended that he was not interested in staying with the team, and why the team didn't try to trade him before the trade deadline? So you are never going to trade a player like Nick Ehlers going into a UFA status if you are first place in the NHL. You are never going to do something like that. The assets that you're going to be able to bring back are nothing in compared to keeping a player like that for a Stanley Cup run. End of story. You never do something like that.
Plus, who are you bringing in for Nick Ehlers at the deadline? You're bringing in picks probably and a young player, and that's not going to help you try to win the Stanley Cup.
So you're going to make your team worse so that you can grab a couple of picks? That's not what winning teams do. Also, Nick Ehlers did let Kevin Cheveldayoff and the organization know a day I think before he made his full decision. So why would Nick Ehlers put himself in a box and tell them exactly what he was planning on doing when he was maybe at the end of the day he was open to staying? So
I don't get that. They got to get asset management. You are at a point with this organization where you're going for the Stanley Cup every single year. You had a first place team in the National Hockey League. You're not looking at mass asset management at all. You're looking at, and that's why I feel this way is throughout the year I was told, like, they're okay with that being your deadline acquisition. Yeah. The other way to look at it is, say your deadline acquisition was Nick Ehlers and you just had him all year. And you're like, say they brought in a pending UFA at the deadline. Mm-hmm. You do it to try and win the cup, and then you let him walk. And I don't think they should have dealt him at all.
This is Gord. Let's reheat some of the great text messages we had from Friday. Of course, we do this every single Monday because we take callers on Friday, but we get a bunch of great text messages also on Free For All Friday, our most popular show by far. So we like to go back. And Gord, we'll reheat Gord's text. He says, you guys always compare these two players, referencing Nikolaj Ehlers and Connor. They're completely different. They're a completely different kind of player, and Connor got to play with Scheifele on the top line. Can't compare because Nikolaj didn't get a full season ever with Mark Scheifele. That, I think he's referencing shifts, right? Because we talked about shifts. So, and you have the actual number, Jim. Like, you went in back and looked at it.
Kyle Connor averaged
21, last year.
21.8 shifts per game. Nikolaj Ehlers averaged 19.
Yes. And how many points did Kyle Connor
Which is normal
get?
second line.
And how many points did Kyle Connor get last year?
97.
97.
And
so a player that is
2 extra shifts per game.
Yeah. So a player that's almost kissing 100 points is going to get more shifts than a guy that's getting 60.
So back to the text.
So I'm just saying, like that's not an outlandish claim that a player that's kissing 100 points in the National Hockey League is going to get a few more shifts than a guy that's, in and around 60, 70. That's why would you not play somebody that's almost has 100 points more?
So back to the text.
We always have to do this. It's because we're not putting down Nikolaj Ehlers, and it seems like we always have to defend this point.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't get it. Like, so here's the problem. You're talking as if the first line doesn't work, or you're talking as if Kyle Connor is in the. And I'll even go one step further. When Kyle Connor hasn't played with Scheifele, there's a lot of data that shows he's not as good. Mm-hmm. So why would you mess with it? Just to give your favorite player more ice time? Like, and you can feel free and text back and go, well, maybe Ehlers would have 97 points. Mm-hmm. Okay, but then what if Connor doesn't get 50? Aren't you better off taking the 60 plus from Ehlers and letting Connor get 90 and finishing first in the National Hockey League? And this is why I don't know this but my guess is this is why Nick is probably, I don't mind a change.
Yeah.
He said, Darren Dreger reported he wants a quieter place.
Yeah. But he walked back a little bit. He said, I wouldn't necessarily say quieter, but it was, yeah.
When we use the word lightning rod, we often think of players who have controversy. That's not Nick, but he was the most talked about player here. Mm-hmm. And I just, look, if you're just putting him up there because you want him up there and you're not looking at Kyle Connor's multiple 40-goal seasons, and then you're going to tell me that Nick Ehlers would have 90 points per year if he played there? He might. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But why would you mess with it?
Paul Maurice did the same thing. Scott O'Neill did the same thing. Rick Bowness did the same thing.
Scott O'Neill played him more, found him more ice time.
Yeah.
Found him more shifts.
I know, but again.
And he still produced the same.
But he still kept, what I'm saying is he kept Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele together.
I shouldn't say the same. He only played 69 games, but.
Let's take a break. Everyone thinks they know better than the coach. That's just the way it is. Let's take a break. Let's come back. On the other side, we'll reheat more of your text messages. We'll continue the conversation. Also, Jonathan Toews spoke, as well as Kevin Cheveldayoff and Scott O'Neill, right after the show on Friday. So we got some, I'd say, I can still consider it fresh audio. We got some fresh audio for you to hear in regards to some of the comments and some of the things. And I maybe some of the things that you might have missed from that availability. We'll play that as the show goes on. Don't go anywhere. So, Jim, over the weekend, Gabriel Vilardi, Dylan Samberg, Morgan Barron, all elected for salary arbitration. Is this time to panic, Jim Toth, or just normal course of contract negotiations?
I don't think so. I think it's part of normal contract negotiations. I think that they're just doing their due diligence. It's actually a positive thing because it means they're going to be Jets.
Yeah.
If they don't get a contract workout, they're going to go to arbitration. They're going to get a deal, and then the Jets can decide whether it's going to be 1 or 2 years. And I promise you they'll take the 2.
Yeah.
They're not going to not take the 2 on Samberg or Vilardi.
Well, I think Samberg is I think he's a UFA at the end of next year. So I think they would take 1. No, they would. Could they take 2?
It's the team. I don't know if they would. Yeah. It's the team's option once the arbitration is settled, whether it's 1 or 2 years. It can't be more than 2 years, and then the team can decide whether they want it for 1 or 2. But I think this is just due process, and they work out a contract with both of those guys.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, absolutely.
So I just think it's due diligence. And Morgan Barron's interesting, right? What would he be looking at? What would he be looking for?
Yeah. And so Vilardi still has another year afterwards, so you definitely take a 1-year deal on him. Yeah, no, you take 2 on those 2 guys. Let's call the Boston Pizza Jets at Noon hotline, open 24/7, 204-780-6800. Coming for lunch every weekday to Boston Pizza. Get a delicious main-sided ice-cold drink for only $15. Only at BP. The number 1 caller will be awarded a $50 gift card to Boston Pizza on Friday. Let's take a break. We'll hear from Jonathan Toews after this.
I'm gonna sit here and talk about goals and assists and all that. I think ultimately, I've just tried my best to be very honest and realistic with myself as far as what the challenges are. I think a couple of years ago I missed the shortened season before I went back to Chicago. in a way, like since I've hit the ice and really been skating a lot these last months or a couple months or so, like it didn't feel like that much time had gone by. I know it's a long time on paper if you're playing hockey. A lot of things change in the league, and teams are different, the game's different, and all that. But for myself, it just kind of all went by in the blink of an eye. And
that was Jonathan Toews there on Friday, and he put on the Winnipeg Jets jersey for the first time. Jets at Noon is brought to you by Wash Method Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road. VIP take on the text line to win a VIP car wash from our good friends at Wash Method, 204-780-6868. We'll announce the winner later in the program as we're coming at you live from the Boston Pizza Studio. For gourmet pizza and pasta, bring the team to Boston Pizza. Download the Jets at Noon podcast as well, free now on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you find your favorite podcast, with exclusive Jets talk and content only found there. And take Jets at Noon wherever you go and continue the conversation whenever you want. Nephew of the program, Tyson Rookie, asks us about patience.
Patience.
He wants to ask how patient we are as Winnipeg Jets fans.
Because it's July 7th and nothing has been done.
Nothing has been done. So we get into that. So make sure you download the podcast and tune into that. Also, Tyson and Braden Owasco, both producers extraordinaire. They're going to be joining us tomorrow at 12:30. They have a new initiative here on Jets at Noon that they put out on the weekends.
We like initiative.
You know what? Because I have no initiative. I have zero up and at 'em.
As long as somebody else does it, we're full of initiative.
You know, people, I have, I put an L on my head. You know, you take your arm and you go like, douche, douche, douche. Like loser also stands loser and lazy for myself. I have zero initiative. I don't want to do anything. So when these guys came up to me, they're like, we want to do this. I'm like, yeah, do it.
In our meetings,
and don't bother me about anything. I don't want to hear anything. I don't want to hear gripes or complaints. Just take care of it.
Yeah. In our meetings, when our boss says, I was thinking, you right away go, oh no. We're fine just doing what we do.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. I hate learning new things. But anyway, so to take a look, we're looking forward to, we'll make sort of a soft announcement of what those guys have been doing tomorrow at 12:30. Darren texts the show just to continue on with Jonathan Toews. Toews and Chibrikov in, Appleton, Ehlers out. Our team is in a better position than last year. Ehlers was decent, but not a clutch superstar. Toews is going to make a huge impact on our team. He'll put us over the edge. Next year is the year. That one from Darren. Very optimistic from Darren. And there's too many intangibles right now where I can't sit here and tell you that the Jets are a better team. Because I don't know. And they finished first place in the league last year. So I don't think the Jets are going to be a better team this year, but that doesn't mean that they're going to eventually have a worse outcome, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, look, they won more games with defense, right? Like the last two seasons, allowing less has gotten them more wins. So I that might work again this year. There's a lot of talk with Ehlers and what he brings to Carolina because it's much the same, right? Like they have a lot of Ehlers types players, and Ehlers can create and do things, and they obviously. So here's the thing: I think the Carolina Hurricanes are trying to expand the way they win games. Mm-hmm. I think they're trying to score more, and I think they're trying to bring creativity in by this move because, as we talked about on Friday, they like a north-south game, forecheck, physical, but they don't score enough goals come playoff time. And you could argue that with the Jets too, right? And Ehlers had a good playoff run this year. So I don't know how they're going to go, but I just feel there's some trades coming. I just feel that whether it's, other teams around the league, there's teams in cap problems, there's other teams that need to add stuff. They need to move, like Jack Roslovic is rumored to have interest from Toronto, and yet they got to move some salary to make that happen if they're going to sign something and all that. So I think there's some moves coming and stuff. And if the Jets can make a deal or bring somebody else in that goes that way, but I think I don't think they have a plan. And what that plan is, I have no clue. Whether it's Lambert, whether it's Chibrikov, whether Nyquist plays the left wing until somebody matures, or they make a trade 20 games into the season. He goes to the third line to play with when Lowry comes back and Niederreiter. I do know this, that when Lowry's healthy and back, I think that third line will score more. I think Nyquist will score more than Mason Appleton did. Yeah. So I like that. I think the fourth line can produce a little bit more if that's the way it's going to look with Barron and everybody there. But that second line spot and what Toews will bring is very interesting to me. And there's a ton of people here that believe it, and it's a great story. And look, that Friday presser, surprised me. Like, I know this is a massive story here. I forgot that this is a pretty big NHL story, that a caliber player of Jonathan Toews is not only making a comeback after 2 years, but he's doing it in his hometown. There was a throng of media here for that story that don't normally attend Jets announcements, because we're just sitting here going, what's a Jets announcement? Here we go. Toews, the local boys here. It's a national story. It's a North American NHL story that he's doing this in his hometown. He himself said at the presser, he was getting pretty excited as it got closer and closer. And then when the news came out of how his phone blew up, even he was taken aback by, there's some pressure here, right? Like, everybody wants this, and there's a ton of jerseys being sold. But I also think Jonathan Toews is going to be driven by that even more. Not that he needed it, but he's not going to want to come out here and put up 28 points. He's going to want to come out here and put up 40 to 50 points and help this team win games.
Here's Chevy on how much risk is attached to the Toews comeback.
I don't know that it's a gamble. I think it's it's certainly an opportunity. I think, in this game here, athletes that do hold themselves to a different, a level of accountability, can do great things. But it's, again, I think it's going to take some time. I think, the biggest thing for us, and everyone says, is it going to be second line center, is it going to be third, is it going to be fourth? It's like, in this game today, I don't really know, if someone says define a second line center, like, for me, in the way that obviously the lines get structured, and it's who goes over the boards first, who goes over the boards second, who goes over thirds, how are they matching up, how do they make other players around them better? That's what a coach, I guess, has some fun or some excitement. And, again, I know the coaches will end up having some meetings, down the line here now that they know pretty much who's in the organization, and those are the kind of conversations that they're going to have, along the way.
Yeah, and I talked about this before, but I'm going to bring it up again. Maybe we need to sort of rethink what a second line center is in terms of, what is a second line? What is a third line on this team? Do the Jets even work in that sort of capacity where they're like, you guys are the third line, you're the second line? Or are they all just, one team? Go out there, do your thing.
I think it is. I mean, I that's why I go with shifts, right? Like, we do this with Ehlers, and people are mad that he had like third line minutes. But again, if you're winning a Jennings Trophy because of your defensive play and your third line is one of the best in the National Hockey League, and then your top line is the highest scoring line in the National Hockey League, your second line left winger is getting 19 shifts per game. Niederreiter had 19 shifts per game. Kyle Karner had 21.8. Take the names out of it, Cam. I think that's perfect.
Yeah.
You have a team that is getting 3 lines of almost equal time. That there are teams that scream for that kind of balance. This is a city that couldn't find that balance for years. Connor, Scheifele, Wheeler were playing twice as much as anybody else because nobody else could score. And now you have a team that has the top left winger 21.8 shifts per game, and the next 2 left wingers, second and third line, quote unquote, had 19. That's the kind of balance every team wants. So, and again, it went to a first place team in the regular season. The problem is, and I think a lot of our listeners have this correct. There's regular season and there's playoffs.
Yeah.
Look at Dallas, right? Duchesne gets an extension. They want to keep him, but he couldn't find the back of the net in the playoffs, and they really needed him. So it's just about what you have, making the most of it and how it works. But I like that balance there of how they rolled it out, and I think you want more of that. But you got to, I don't know, are they thinking of a different way to win more games? I think they have to think of ways to win more playoff games.
Yeah.
And that's why I think at 8.5, and Ehlers didn't want the 8.5 for 5 years, that now you go in a way and say, look, we've got a team. Does anybody believe even without Ehlers, this team's not making the playoffs? I don't.
No, I don't.
I think it's a playoff team. Are they going to finish first? I don't think so. I didn't think they were going to finish first last year, but I think they're a playoff team. And so now that the Ehlers thing has happened, I think they have to look at a way to, bring something in that helps them win more playoff games.
Well, I think that's why Nyquist is here. Not that he's like this ultimate playoff performer, but I think the Jets were seeing just how thin that margin was in the series against St. Louis and Dallas. And they're correct to sit there and go, we were a goal away from probably winning that series in Dallas at some point. You know, in a couple of those games, if they just had one other guy on the team find the back of the net, it would have made a major difference in a couple of those games. And I think that's why Nyquist is on this team, not because he's coming in as some sort of gladiator in the postseason, but as a guy that, like, man, maybe he can find us that goal in both of those series that turned the tide and made sure it wasn't as close as it was against St. Louis, and maybe scored that goal in Game 6 that, you know, that put us up and over, right? Or found that goal in Game 1 against Dallas that didn't send us back to St. Louis with a split, you know, back to Dallas with a split, which was a big difference in that series because, you know, they come back 3-1 down, right?
Let's be honest. That's what Carolina's doing.
Yeah.
Carolina's going in a different direction. They're trying to bring in more scoring because they've gone to playoffs year after year after year and losing a lot of 2-1 games.
Yeah.
And so they're rethinking things. Ehlers isn't your typical Rod Brind'Amour player, and they have plenty of Ehlers there already. But they're going, we're not scoring enough. So if the players we have get the system well and they execute it perfectly, how do we get more scoring come playoff time? Now, the thing about the Jets this year, especially against Dallas, is third-line guys, fourth-line guys, Appleton, Yanni, and Cage had scoring chances. Kyle Connor had enormous ones, and they just couldn't bury it. Do you reinvent the wheel, or do you look at the opportunities you had and hope your players can bury those? Because it's two different things to me. If they didn't have opportunities to score goals against Dallas, I would be concerned about the mix. The idea that they actually did, and I can go through the lines that had glorious opportunities and couldn't beat Jake Ottinger, then I think that I'll stand by with what I have and look to add something that would help us bury some of those, as opposed to go, we got to fix something here.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely. This texter, let's reheat some more text messages from Friday. This texter says, I don't understand why Chevy signed 5 players to $1 million contracts. Wouldn't that money be better used to sign Vilardi and Samberg? Those were AHL 2A contracts. Those are guys that are add depth to the organization, absolutely. Yeah. But those are for the Moose. I think the True North looked at the Moose and how, let's be honest, how bad they were last year. And they said, we can't let that happen again. It probably harmed the development of some of the prospects. There were some guys that probably, you know, were supposed to be with the Moose, but played their way onto the Jets roster and were sitting up there for most of the time. So
they got a ton of guys turning pro this year too.
Yeah,
more so than usual.
Yeah,
like Corby Barlow is out of options. He's a professional hockey player now with the Manitoba Moose minimum.
Yeah.
So he'll come to camp, and I don't know, 50 games into the season. As you pointed out when he joined us on Jets at Noon last week, he's a point-a-game player in the American Hockey League.
He liked that when I said that. Yeah, he liked that when I said that.
He laughed when I said, go right to the show and you'll remain an AHL legend, point-per-game player. But, I mean, he's a guy that could come in, and I don't know, like maybe 20 games in, he has such a good start to the season, and Lowry's still out. You give him a look at a center position.
Yeah. But there needs to be some more support around these guys, Braden Yager and stuff like that. Like there's,
you're right to help them and everything. I just think it's a year of
Jacob Julian
of trades where they make a move or something or that. I mean, a lot of people I heard on the weekend were disappointed Patrick Kane didn't come here. A lot of people I ran into were like, "Hey, why didn't they?" And I go, "I don't know. He obviously took I think he made $4 million. Now he's making $3 million.
Yeah,
we
stayed in Detroit.
Don't quote me on that, but to stay in Detroit, so he obviously likes it in Detroit. He's from Buffalo.
$3 million, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, but I wonder if there was a phone call. I doubt there was, but I wonder if there was. Would you consider? But the right side is okay in my mind.
Yeah,
especially with Nyquist here. It's the left side that you gotta.
Let's take a break. Let's come back on the other side. Hey, we'll give away that VIP car wash or our VIP text. Our good friends at Wash Method located down at 690 St. Anne's Road. We'll hear from some more on here on Jets at Noon. Don't go anywhere. We'll continue to reheat your takes.
At Noon with Cameron Poitras and Jim Toth on 680 CJOB.
Welcome back to the show. 204-780-6868. Here's our winning text message from our good friends at Wash Method down at 690 St. Anne's Road. Miss your chance to get your thoughts on the show today. Call the Boston Pizza Jets at Noon hotline, open 24/7, 204-780-6800. Coming for lunch every weekday to Boston Pizza. Get a delicious main, side, and ice cold drink for only $15. Only at BP. The number one caller will be awarded a $50 gift card to Boston Pizza, just like Nobby Wu did on Friday. So congratulations, Nobby. You can be the next winner. Win that $50 gift certificate to Boston Pizza. The winning text message goes to this texter. He says, all due respect, guys, you're missing the point. Ehlers has a higher points per 60 than KFC over the last 3 seasons while playing with Nemesnikov and primarily existing on the second power play unit. Historic mismanagement of talent. To not find him a second-line center in that time will cost this team the current window. That from Cam was the texter that put that out. The points per 60, Jim. It's not as, we talk about this with analytics, it is not as cut and dry and solid and black and white as many make it seem to be.
It's been proven time and time again that more ice time does not equate to more points.
Correct.
There's a bunch of facets about fatigue, injury, more susceptible. Dustin Byfuglien was a prime example of that. Dustin Byfuglien could have played till he was 50, I'm convinced, at 18 to 19 minutes a night. Mm-hmm. Ask him to play 24 to 25. Historically, that's when he had more turnovers. That's when he had more this. So it doesn't always equate that way. It's a factor that, hey, we might want to give this guy a little more ice time.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Nick Ehlers went to 3 more minutes a night 2 years ago. I forget which year that was. But he went up almost 3 full minutes a night and still scored 60 points.
Yeah. That was actually not that long ago. I'll find that exactly.
But it's a great indicator to go, hey, maybe this guy will work here, stuff like that. But it's not a proven fact that if you just give a player that has a good G per 60 or points per 60 more ice time, that it equates to more points.
Yeah, no doubt about that. The year he 21-22, he had 18:04 minutes per night, and that year he had 55 points in 62 games. And this last year he had 15 minutes and 48 on average. And in 69 games, he had 63 points. So relatively the same. Look, it actually went down a little bit with 55 and 62. His points per average.
And why did he only play that many games?
Yeah, and he played 18 too.
He was injured again, right?
Yeah, so there's more factors at play. It's not all black and white. Analytics, important as always, but if you're looking at points per 60, there's a lot more factors that go into it than just like, well, he had higher points per 60. You should play him more.
Marco Dano had a fantastic points per 60. Mm-hmm. And I think there was one year the best 2 in the league was Nikita Kucherov. And I think a third-line player from Ottawa had the highest points.
The
per
one
60.
point I will concede to you, Cam, though, is to not find a second-line center in that time has cost us current window. I don't think it's from a lack of trying, but it has been a hole on this roster for a while.
It has. It still is.
No doubt about it.
No disrespect to Jonathan Toews, but if you're at 37 years old, he's not your answer for the next 5 years.
Cam, you're dead on about that. Thank you very much, Jeffrey Fortier, for producing the show. That's it for me. Be back same time tomorrow. See ya.